The Hunter Group Apprenticeships Out of Trade scheme was introduced 2 years ago to help apprentices who are partway through their training and out of work get back into employment. There are currently 24 apprentices being trained in the workshop at Adamstown and out in the field. The apprentices carry out work for non-profit community organisations such as the Scouts, Guides or service groups. They provide the materials and the apprentices do the rest. The federal government pays a training allowance and the state government provides the workshop facilities. Project Manager Dennis Brooking.
The scheme has been very successful. We've placed 84 apprentices back into the workforce and an additional 9 have completed their apprenticeship.
And what do the apprentices get out of the scheme?
The apprentices get continued training which helps them to maintain their skills and it allows them to get back into the workforce.
Now you've clocked up almost $1 million worth of community work. Do you feel the community now owes the apprentices?
I feel the community should owe the apprentices a place back in the workforce. The apprentices have done this work under a Commonwealth training allowance and help them develop their skills, and if the community could provide jobs to further their career, it would be great.
Ryan was in Newcastle as guest speaker at the Morris Brothers Old Boys annual reunion. Ryan, a member of the old school himself, will be coaching Canterbury again next season.
Well, naturally, yes, I am looking forward to another good season. We haven't actually strengthened much, but then again, I think we've still got a good enough side to win it again. But we'll be up with that side in early next year to play Newcastle again, because it's an annual event that the Sydney winners come up to play Newcastle as a trial match the week before our competition starts. So we'll have our Canterbury side up here, I think late February it's scheduled for.
You've obviously got very strong childhood ties with Newcastle. Are you hoping to strengthen the sporting ties?
Well, that's probably in the future at this stage. There was great talk about Newcastle coming into the league and a lot of strong rumours about the fact that I might come back and coach them, and that's not out of the question. It's just that Newcastle were unable to get in this year, but I've got a sneaking suspicion they might be in '87.
Up until last year, the 4 Lake Macquarie City Council beaches, Catherine Hill Bay, Caves Beach, Blacksmiths and Redhead, were patrolled 7 days a week. Then it was decided that the inspectors wouldn't work Sundays, and now the council has deemed that the surf lifesaving clubs should patrol both days of the weekend.
The Lake Macquarie City Council has decided to donate $2,500 to each of the 4 clubs for maintenance and equipment costs, instead of spending the money to employ a beach inspector to patrol on Saturdays.
The council donation, along with the multi-million-dollar sponsorship by Westpac, is welcomed by the clubs, but it doesn't solve the problem of falling membership in some areas. Up until now, any member who patrolled the beach gave up their weekend voluntarily. Now the clubs are under pressure to provide an adequate service. For clubs like Catherine Hill Bay, the situation is dire. With only a handful of active members, the club relies on the council beach inspector to protect swimmers on the sometimes treacherous beach. Membership at Swansea, Belmont and Redhead clubs are high, but they are still concerned about the effect that the absence of an inspector on weekends will have.
On this particular beach, it will mean that we can't guarantee a fully qualified ambulance officer on duty at the ambulance room, and it's going to make it difficult for the club to enforce the Local Government Act as it applies to beaches. This is our most area of concern, because our club, with its very large membership, has no problems in providing the life-saving services on the beach. That's the rostered patrols on Saturdays and Sundays and public holidays. But when we have crowds of 5,000 or 6,000 people, there are many incidents which take place on a beach where the crowd stretches for perhaps a mile and a half along the 9 Mile beach. and we need a council beach inspector, not only on Saturdays but on Sundays, to take over that role.
The saga of the Salamander Bay commercial development has been a long drawn-out one. Originally, the council wanted to be the developer, but that drew harsh criticism from the local business community. It said the area couldn't support another commercial centre, and it resented the council speculating with public money. So after the Minister for Local Government, Kevin Stewart, had told the council to refrain from undertaking any more commitments, and thousands of dollars had been paid out in interest repayments, the council finally agreed to privately sell the land, and its consultant, Centennial Projects, was chosen as the most suitable buyer. A rescission motion was passed and the sale was delayed. Mr Stewart then stepped in and advised the council that it would be more prudent for it to sell the land by tender. Reluctantly, it agreed. The advertisement in today's newspapers made it clear that the council is not interested in speculators who come to it with deals. All submissions must come to the council in the form of a contract, so that all of the normal time-consuming legalities can be dispensed with. The winning tender will also have to abide by a number of conditions. The development must remain the same, that is a Shuey supermarket and 28 specialty shops. Construction must commence within 6 weeks of the contracts being signed, and the developer must submit a completion date.
Shire Clerk John Walsh says tenders will close on the 27th of November, and he hopes to have the contract signed and the whole matter resolved before Christmas.
The latest youth community project, the Carrington Club Hotel, was just one of the stops on a visit by Mrs Hazel Hawke today. I'll have the full details on that story tonight for you on NBN News.
Specialist colleagues.
More than 50 professionals involved in the treatment of cancer patients listened to a series of speakers, including Dr. Jim Dickinson. Dr. Dickinson suggested that while the oncology unit will solve some of the immediate problems of cancer treatment in the Hunter, general practitioners must play a greater role. The family doctor, he said, must attend to the prevention and early detection of cancer. He or she should, for example, inform patients of the health risks of smoking. Dr. Dickinson's comments were part of a general message at the seminar that different branches of the medical services must cooperate more fully in the treatment of cancer.
It's a need that is well recognised, but there's often a gap between the recognition of the fact and the actual implementation. But certainly seminars like this help to achieve that comprehensive care, which is in the best interest of the patient.
More than 175 bowmen competed in today's final round of the two-day field course event. Unlike competition archery, the shooters aim for simulated animal targets, 20 in all, which are plotted out over a field course. Competitors travelled from as far away as Cobar, Nambucca Heads and Corindai for the weekend meet. According to organisers, the sport of field shooting is increasing in popularity. It's a sport for both young and old, which allows the whole family to participate. Some of the top shooters in the state were absent from the meet, as they're now in New Zealand competing in the Pacific Championships. However, state title holder in the Masters Dave Kennett performed well, as did junior national champion Matthew Beckley.
Peter Doohan turned on some exciting tennis in the final of the singles this morning to defeat New Zealander Bruce Derlin 6-3, 6-3. He backed up in front of his home crowd again this afternoon for the doubles final, in which he and partner American Brian Levine played Brett Custer of Sydney and David McPherson from the Institute of Sport. Blonde-headed Custer is related to American legend Colonel Custer, and he and his partner McPherson put up a gallant stand, but in the end, the tournament number 1 seeds Doohan and Levine clinched the match in 3 sets. They won 6-4, 6-7, 6-2. In the ladies' final, Solana Dahlström of Sweden took out the singles, with Amanda Dingwall and Chris O'Neill winning the doubles. The Victorian tail end wagged yesterday morning, further consolidating the Southerners' grip on the game. New South Wales' hopes were raised early in the piece when Victorian captain Ray Bright was bowled in the 4th over of play for 39. Merv Hughes came to the crease to join Mike Diamantina, who was handing out a few lessons to the attack. Hughes wasn't quite up to the task and was caught behind for 8 off the bowling of Jeff Lawson. Running out of partners, Diamantina carried on with the task, but he too fell to Lawson, just 2 runs short of his half-century. Victoria had added a valuable 38 runs in the morning session, and New South Wales trailed by 76. Victoria let New South Wales off early in their innings. Then sole test cap Simon O'Donnell struck, capturing the wicket of opener Mark Taylor. Mark Waugh followed closely behind, bowled by Merv Hughes for 4 runs, and at lunch New South Wales were in poor shape at 2 for 21. O'Donnell picked up his 2nd wicket of the innings, with Dirk Wellham trapped leg before for 22. The task of saving face for New South Wales was left to Peter Clifford and Greg Matthews. Clifford got on top of the bowling after tea and went on to score an impressive 98. Doohan turned on some exciting tennis in the final of the singles yesterday in defeating New Zealander Bruce Derlin 6-3, 6-3. He backed up again in front of his home crowd in the afternoon for the doubles final. He and partner American Brian Levine played Brett Custer of Sydney and David McPherson from the Institute of Sport. Blonde-headed Custer is related to American legend Colonel Custer, and while that pair put up a gallant stand, it was the tournament number 1 seeds Doohan and Levine who clinched the match in straight sets. They won the first set 6-4, lost the second in a tiebreak 6-7 and came home 6-2 in the third. For Peter Doohan, both wins are important for a number of reasons.
I'm pleased to be able to have this win in my hometown, and for a change it's nice to play a tournament in Newcastle that actually means something towards my world ranking. Usually I play a long weekend tournament here and it doesn't mean that much except for the locals, but here it meant a lot in the tennis circles, and I was pleased to get out of it here with a win in my hometown.
And so what's in the future for you? What's down the pipeline?
Well, next week I'll be going to Sydney for the Australian Harcourt, and then 2 more weeks at the Satellite in Melbourne, and that'll be followed by the Grand Prix Circuit, the Australian Open, New South Wales Open, South Australian Open, and all those at the end of the year, so I'll be pretty busy through to January, and I'm really using the Satellite as a warm-up for the Grand Prix at the end of the year. I did the same thing last year and it seemed to work pretty well, and I'm really setting my sights on the Australian Open or the New South Wales Open at the end of the year.
Wills opens in Newcastle tonight. It's the story of the historic expedition that set out from Melbourne on August the 20th, 1860, crossing Australia from south to north for the first time. The character of John King, the only survivor to tell the story, is played by an up-and-coming Australian actor, Matthew Farger. It's his first film, and he says working alongside names like Jack Thompson and Nigel Havers made his role a challenging experience.
And it was challenging both as an actor, trying to very, very quickly discover how I was supposed to work and how I was supposed to deal with the presence of the camera and all of those kinds of things. And it was also very challenging as a person, trying to maintain a sense of who I was amongst all the ballyhoo and hoo-ha of a $9 million film. And that for me was actually more difficult, I think, than the work as an actor.
Matthew says that he's learnt a lot about the film industry from working closely with co-stars, but says that although his future looks promising, he's keeping level-headed about his new success.
I think it's a mistake to start thinking, I've got to live up to my reputation, or this is going to be the start of great things. I know that I just want to do certain kinds of good work, and that this has given me the opportunity of choice. I think that I'll have a greater degree of choice in what I can do because of this, and so that's very exciting for me.
The Consul General of the People's Republic of China, Li Ziling, is cruising Newcastle Harbour this afternoon, being shown our port facilities. He's hoping to forge agreements for technology transfer between Australia and China, and he sees Newcastle as a vital link. I'm Janelle Provost. We'll have details on that and more stories tonight on NBN News at 6.
Priests and nuns from the Roman Catholic Diocese of Maitland visited this Aboriginal art cave at Milbradale near Broke today. This is part of a new policy of reconciliation with the Aborigines adopted by the Catholic Church throughout Australia. I'm Helen Hughes. I'll have a full report on the new policy in NBN's Hour of News tonight at 6.
Neil Simon's acclaimed The Gingerbread Lady is the club's new challenge. Peter Bloomfield has been directing for the club for the past 28 years and says it's a play not to be missed.
The Gingerbread Lady is Evie, who has been away to a sanatorium for the cure for alcoholism, and she's wrecked a promising singing career by drinking and by picking up with too many of the wrong men, and she's just returned from the cure at the start of the play.
Who will the play appeal most to?
I think it's got pretty universal appeal. I don't think it's going to appeal to any one age group more than any other.
Carol Davis, a well-known Novocastrian actress and former Conda winner, plays the role of the reformed alcoholic Evie. She says the play is a unique insight into family life and its struggles.
Like most of Simon's plays, he writes about real people, and he's just telling life as it is. I don't think there's a real message behind the play, but certainly it's love your daughter and love your mother.
Carrington Slipways is on the upswing yet again. Today the director, Don Laverick, announced that the company was investing $500,000 in new workshops and equipment, as well as re-employing 45 permanent employees. I'm Janelle Provost. We'll have details on that and more stories tonight on NBN News at 6.
Hunter Valley Goat Club's field day on Saturday at Dulwich, a property about 15 minutes north of Singleton. You turn right off the highway at Middle Falbrook. We'll be looking very closely at worms and the control of internal parasites in goats. There will be a Department of Agriculture demonstration conducted by the Singleton Denman Pastures Protection Board Veterinary Officer Michael Ems, who's been trialling different drenches and monitoring their effectiveness in the Dulwich Angora herd. The program there gets underway at 12 and should conclude around 4:30. Then on Sunday the 17th, the Hunter Valley Dairy Goat Promotions Group will be holding a field day at the Brimbago stud at Gilliston Heights, and considering the turnout at their recent show at Maitland, it should be a big day. Goat health will be a major topic of discussion. As well, there will be breed displays, demonstrations of tattooing and stud book registrations, and as well, a session on maximising dairy goat production. Sunday's field day at Brimbago between Maitland and Curry runs between 10 and 3.